defences. They cut down the exhausted Tyrians, drove them north into the main part of the city. Attacked from the land and the sea, Tyre could not hold.
The siege of Tyre by Alexander's troops takes 7 months.
Truth of the matter is that in the end he went through with it because he was damn well not going to be beaten, because they had really irritated him past belief, and because he was going to sacrifice in that damn temple if he had to kill 10,000 people to do it.
Some Tyrians made a hopeless last stand at their citadel, the Agonorium. Others fled for their lives here to the Temple of Heracles. Like most ancient sites, this one has been built over. A medieval cathedral was constructed on top of it. But down here was the old temple. Here Alexander comes to finally make his sacrifice to Heracles after 7 bloody months. Those found in here are spared. But outside these walls, a terrible massacre takes place. 8,000 Tyrians are slaughtered, 30,000 more sold into slavery.
Today, this roadway is built literally on top of the mole, constructed by order of Alexander. His unrelenting, successful siege of Tyre sent a message to every other city in the path of his future conquests.
What Alexander proves is that if he believes something is strategically necessary, he will stay at it and fight for as long as it takes in order to attain that goal.
Conquering the walled island city of Tyre has gone down in history as one of the most incredible achievements of any army. Alexander, more confident than ever in the abilities of his troops and himself, continues toward the goal of defeating King Darius and conquering Persia. But first, he sets out to discover something even more personally significant. Proof that he is not only a man, but a god. (332 BC). Following a 7-month siege, Alexander has achieved what most would consider impossible: the conquest of the walled island city of Tyre, by building not one, but 2 half-mile-long causeways. With the Aegean seaport under his control, Alexander confidently leads his army into Egypt. There, he is given the title of Pharaoh, by tradition making him both a king and a son of Ra, or God. After traveling through Heliopolis and Memphis, Alexander comes upon a shoreline so magnificent, he envisions a grand seaport.
Alexandria is the first of more than 30 cities founded by Alexander in his own name. But why here? Well, it's an excellent location between Lake Mareotis and the Mediterranean Sea. It has a mild, healthy climate and an excellent natural harbour, deep and well-sheltered, further improved when Alexander commands the offshore island of Pharos to be connected to the mainland by a mole. Alexandria would be the new emporium for the world's trade, a cornerstone for Alexander's empire, and a crossroads of the ancient world.
Today, the population of Alexandria is approximately 4 million. 80% of Egypt's imports and exports move through its harbors. To many, building such a city would be an achievement of a lifetime. But for Alexander the Great, it is merely a brief distraction from greater priorities. One of those is a visit to the temple of the god Ammon at the desert oasis of Siwa.
While Alexander was in Egypt, the entire resources of the greatest empire on earth were mobilizing to fight him. He had to get back to war, to defeat the Persians before their vast armies cut him off from Macedonia. But at this crucial moment, he chose to spend 6 weeks traveling through the Sahara Desert. The journey was a spiritual preparation for what was perhaps the greatest religious experience of Alexander's life, and it was a journey that nearly killed him.
Alexander came to the desert, he began to cross a country covered with an infinite expanse of sand. In 4 days their water had given out, and they suffered from fearful thirst. All fell into despair. And suddenly a great storm of rain burst from the heavens, ending their shortage of water in a way that had not been foreseen. At one point, when the road could not be traced because of the sand dunes, the guide pointed out to the king that the crows cawing on the right were calling their attention to the route which led to the temple. Alexander took this as an omen, and thinking that the god was pleased by his visit, pushed on with speed.
To the Egyptians, Ammon was the equivalent of the Greek god Zeus, the king of all gods. Frequently, the deity would be addressed using both names, Zeus Ammon. Alexander has a burning desire to find out from the oracle at Siwa if he is a son of God. Today, the remains of the temple still stand at Siwa Oasis.
Alexander and his companions climbed up into the temple, and it was here on these steps that the high priest greeted Alexander with a slip of the tongue. He meant to say, "O Pai Dion, O my son." But his Greek wasn't up to much, and what the Macedonians heard him say was, "O Pai Dios, O son of Zeus." Now for Alexander that was quite a good start. The sayings of the oracle were usually delivered in this courtyard, but Alexander was too important a guest for a public show. Besides, he had some very private questions, so he alone was allowed to question the god directly and enter the inner chamber. This is the holy shrine where the bejeweled statue of the ram-headed god Ammon was kept. Alexander stood here alone on this very spot to ask his questions. He never revealed what they were, but in later years they were said to be these. Would he conquer the world? Had all his father's murderers been punished? And was he indeed the son of Zeus? Alexander received his answers from the priests, who, supposedly, had not heard the questions. But in fact, beside this chamber is a narrow passageway. Here, the priests could listen in and then appear to give the gods answers. Now, it's easy for us to mock this as a fraud, but remember, oracles don't last for 2,000 years unless they're pretty accurate. The answers that Alexander received were these. Yes, he would conquer the world. Yes, all his father's murderers had been punished, which may have been a relief to Alexander. If he was in fact guilty of involvement in his father's death, he needed to know if divine retribution was on the way. The answer to the final question was clear. The priests told him that Philip was not his father anyway, and that he was indeed the son of Zeus Ammon, the son of God.
No one is with Alexander when the priests at Siwa supposedly acknowledge him as the Son of God. There are no witnesses, only the word of Alexander himself. But as Alexander heads back through the desert to rejoin his army, his belief in his own invincibility is heightened. He would need every bit of this confidence in the months and years ahead. Alexander still faces a decisive battle with perhaps the only other mortal who might have considered himself a deity, Darius. And the Persian king is preparing a secret weapon for their next encounter, designed to render Alexander's most powerful war machine, the phalanx, useless. Fall 331 BC. Despite dramatic victories at the Granicus River, Issus, and Tyre, Alexander the Great realizes he can never claim to rule Asia if King Darius remains free. And Darius realizes he will never retain control of Asia without defeating Alexander. The two commanders know an ultimate